But I'm going to tell you this, we ain't done yet.
Howdy, and welcome back to the Ineligibles podcast. I'm Will Stone. I'm down here in Hutto. He's Chase Caldwell. He's up in Waxahachie, Texas.
Caldwell.
He's Chase Caldwell.
I'm Waxahachie.
We're starting our preview of the 2021 version of the Texas Aggies. And we're going to start with the most important position on the field in football and the one that draws the most questions when it's undecided, and that's quarterback. A&M loses a veteran in Kellen Mond, started as the full-time starter 3 seasons and part of a fourth when he was a true freshman. And there's always, I guess there's just uncertainty. There's unknown. You don't know until you see these other guys play how good they're going to be. But I know that you and me kind of feel like there's some guys that may have even a higher ceiling than Kellen Mond. I'll let you go first. Tell us about Haynes King.
Whoo boy, I'm so excited about Haynes King. I think a lot of people are. I'm not on my own there, but man, this kid, he is an incredible athlete. Of course, he's going to get just tons and tons of comparisons to Johnny. Because he's one of the best athletes on the field. And he is just, like I said, incredibly athletic. He's a coach's son, and he's got that demeanor of a quarterback. I am big about quarterbacks having a good leadership demeanor, and it doesn't really even matter whether they're quiet or whether they're outspoken, just so long as they have that demeanor. And, I'm not saying that Mond didn't have it. In fact, I think Mond had it a lot, and a lot of times. But you listen to people talk and you look in their eyes and stuff, and you can kind of tell just how they're built. And a quarterback, you want somebody who just is really just a very, I don't know a synonym to demeanor, but somebody that has that demeanor,
Yeah.
and that attitude about themselves, because that's a leader and that's somebody that you can really get behind. And the same could be said for coaches. You can have your flashy quarterbacks, you can have your flashy coaches, but that's different than somebody like Nick Saban or Jimbo Fisher that has that demeanor to him. And that's the way I see quarterbacks. I think that you've got plenty of examples of these just really, really fantastic, flashy quarterbacks that don't really have that demeanor to them. And I'm not going to oust some of those, but you know who I'm talking about, the ones that we heard all about that were just the next best thing since sliced bread that you haven't heard about in several years now. And then you get the ones that did have that demeanor. Take like Tannehill. I felt like he had that demeanor. And look at him, he's still in the league. And he's still doing great things. So you really get a leader out of somebody that has that leadership quality to him. And here I'm talking about a kid that I've never even met in my life. I'm just using like an interpersonal viewpoint of watching his conversations that he's had on interviews, and just different things like that. But watching him play, whew, he's exciting. Again, he's going to get compared to Johnny a million times, so I might as well be the first one to do it. He can run like the wind. Didn't he have the fastest 40 on our entire team?
Excluding Devon A-Chain, excuse me, because he was doing track stuff whenever they tested, but they say he ran the fastest one on the team. I'm assuming that Damon Demas was included in that, who ran a verified 4.4 coming out of high school. So I think I've heard whispers that Haynes was in that mid 4.5 range. I mean, sorry, that mid 4.4 range.
That's just insane. And his shuttle, which a lot of us think is a better way of measuring, or translates better to football. His shuttle was incredible too. He had a super high jump. I mean, all these things that might sound like they don't really matter, and in I guess maybe the grand scheme of things, you can't necessarily translate that to the field. But again, you have this kid that has that leadership demeanor to him, and then he's one of the, if not the best athlete on the field. I mean, that's what you want. That's the ideal leader to your team, and especially at the quarterback position. But oh my gosh, I mean, he's got just a tremendous arm. I remember when he went to the Elite 11, I followed it very, very closely. For those that don't know, that's listening, that's one of the training events, I guess you could say, for some of the best college athletes or college quarterbacks high school quarterbacks in the nation, and receivers are on there too, and he did phenomenally while he was there. In some ratings, he was a 5-star quarterback for a while. He's a 5-star in my heart. I think he has that 5-star talent. And to make it romantic, Longview, whenever he was there, Longview High School hadn't won the state championship since 1937. Okay, that was pre-Hitler invading Poland. Was the last time that Longview had won the state championship.
I'm so glad you put it that way.
2 years later, when the September that Hitler was invading Poland. No, I'm sorry, that he was already well into Poland by that point. But so 1939, guess who came along and won the national championship that year? Oh, the
fighting Texas Aggies.
And you know how many championships we've won since then in football? Exactly 0. So here he took his school, who had not won a state championship since 1937, and fast forward, 81 years? No, 81 years. And
a long-ass time.
He takes them to the national champion, or to the state championship, and they won.
Yeah.
So he's done it once. Let's do it again.
That's right.
Like I said, I'm trying to make it romantic here because, it might have been more romantic had he been the 2020 quarterback, because then, it would be the same span of years. But, I mean, shoot, he has already taken a program who hadn't been there, killed that 82-year drought or 81-year drought, and then, moves to a team that's on an 82-year drought. Let's see if we can fix it,
Yeah.
And so that's kind of course, that doesn't really translate, of course, to how great of a quarterback he is. But that's a really, really interesting storyline, that I want to follow, and I haven't heard in a while. I heard it a while back a lot, but haven't heard it in a while. But, yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on it? I know you watched the spring game here recently, just kind of rewatched, and you were really analyzing the quarterback specifically. So what do you see?
Yeah, Haynes King, I'm a big fan. 6'2", 200 pounds. In the spring game, and I know it's a spring game, like we're not running like our offense and things like that, but it's our first real look at him in an A&M uniform with getting a lot of reps and seeing what he can do. And man, he was super impressive. You could see his mobility. He was extremely accurate on the day. I mean, he was putting balls on the money. He had a few ones dropped that would have been surefire big plays, like 20 and 30 yards, if not more. So don't go off of his stat line from the spring game. If you go look that up, it's not really representative of the day he had. But he moved the offense well, and even when he threw an incompletion, it was often on the guys around him. And Jimbo made that point on the broadcast. He threw a deep ball to Anias, and Anias ran the wrong route. And Jimbo's like, "Who's the rookie here, Anias? Like, is it you or is it this kid that's in his second year? Like, you should be doing better than that." So I think Jimbo likes him. I definitely like him. He's got a lot of tools. And I think he can set the world on fire this year. But like we said, 4.4 speed, 4.1 shuttle, great explosive ability. And that's the part you didn't get to see in the spring game. Like Jimbo's not going to let his quarterback run wild and take a lot of hits. So you could definitely tell that Haynes was trying to stay in the pocket and make throws as much as he could. There's definitely at least 2 or 3 plays that stand out where he could have, tucked it and run if it was a live game. But that's to come, and that's the big thing is whoever starts out of these 2 guys, they're going to have 5 games to get ready for Alabama. Like 5, not easy games, but 5, not games against like the Alabamas or LSUs of the world. You got Kent State and Colorado and a couple other smaller names, but man, I'm impressed with King. I know it's a competition, but I think we expect King to take it. I like his leadership as well. What I'm really excited for is for America to hear how this kid sounds. He's, like you said, he's from Longview. He's from East Texas, and he's country, and he sounds like it. So I'm excited for his.
There's going to be so many old ags that just love this like old country boy that's leading. I mean, it's kind of like LBJ whenever he led the nation, like everybody trusted him because he talks slow, and like, I love his voice. I mean, y'all could tell I'm a hick person, but he's I don't know. I will say, I sunshine pumped him there for a bit whenever I got, but it's because I'm super excited about the kid. Like he just strikes me as one of those that is he going to be a Heisman Trophy winner this year? No, maybe not. I hate to say no because I'm not gonna. I mean, I've never seen him full on play. I would have said no to Johnny if you'd asked me that same question in June of 2011. But could he be that caliber of player by the end of his career at A&M? Absolutely. Like I expect that. I mean, not saying that I expect him to win the Heisman and he, like anything else is lower, but I expect him to be one of the best quarterbacks in A&M's history. And that says a lot because we've had some great quarterbacks through the years,
Yeah.
But
I think I think a lot of people would ask, do you think he'll have a better season than Mon? And it's hard to quantify what that means. Like, what do you mean by better? Like, as far as protecting the football, I think Mon was one of the best in the country at that. He had a 19 touchdown to 3 interception ratio, which was among the best in the nation. And I think with King, it's going to be tough to expect that. Like, people with, like, I think quarterbacks with less experience tend to throw more picks. It's just a fact of life. And you look at Johnny, like Johnny didn't turn the ball over at all until he played Ole Miss on the road, and then he turned it over 3 times. A young player is going to be prone to that. But to be honest, I think Haynes will put up better numbers statistically than Kellen did, but may not be as he may not protect the football quite as well as Kellen did.
Yeah, and that's a very fair assessment. But a lot of people would look back at Kellen and say that they wish he would have taken more risks, thrown the deep ball more often,
for sure,
or not be as timid as a runner. So I think you'll see a lot more flash from Haynes King than what you've become accustomed to under Jimbo. And I think in terms of the fans, people are really wanting that. So I think he'll really deliver that because if you just want to get excited about this kid, especially if you're somebody listening that have absolutely no idea who we're talking about, just go search him on YouTube. You don't even have to look him up on Huddle. He's all over YouTube. Haynes King, search his 2018 highlights. Is when he was in high school, and you'll see what we're talking about. I mean, he just looks. He's one of those that just jumps off the screen, literally, like you're. He's the only person that you're watching, and when he appeared in a few games this year, like that we threw him in at the end of the Alabama game. I think he drove the field a little bit and then he threw a pick. I loved that. I really loved that because we were losing the game, like there was no way of winning, and Jimbo's like, go play the number one team in America. Go for it. Go get your first reps as a college player, Yep. And that was a really cool moment, in my opinion. Was like that's throw him into the fire, and see how he performs, and in a lot of ways it's that whole idea of like throw somebody in and tell them to swim, swim or drown. And he did that, and in that case, like, of course, he threw a pick there at the end, but I'm sure that was a big, like, realization. You go from being the best player in your division, and guaranteed he was the best player at his high school. I'm sure he was one of the best players that he ever played against, and so that's a big realization for a lot of young players, is you go from being the coolest, best player on the field to suddenly everybody's catching up to you. And so I think I thought that was really cool of Jimbo, that he threw him in there like that. But I could see him having some struggles early on in terms of, just getting it down pat. I could see us being a little bit more vanilla on offense for that reason. But at the same time, he's a coach's kid. He's got that demeanor that I don't know the kid, but I could see him going home on the weekends and studying the playbook. Like he just kind of almost strikes you as that type of person. Exactly. Yeah. And he may not be. I mean, he may be at Northgate every day. I don't know, but he doesn't strike you as that type of person. Like he strikes you as somebody who's just really tuned in. Because he's got his sights set on the next level, but he seems like a very loyal person too. So there's I just really like the kid a lot.
Yeah, I think Jimbo had a good line in one of his press conferences about King. He says, "No matter how hard I am on him in practice, I know his daddy was twice as hard on him when he was in high school." So he's definitely. Go ahead.
Which means he's probably 3 times as hard on himself.
Yeah, exactly.
You have that type of brutal raising, but not brutal. That sounds bad. Like his dad didn't beat him, but you have that like really, tough spirit, and my dad has always been very very tough on me, and not in like a bad way. Like he's expected a lot of me, and he's whenever I've done wrong, he's really like he hadn't shied back, and I think that's made me the person that I am today. A lot of that, and I'm sure Haynes King would probably say the same thing if you asked him. I mean, he just I don't know. He just seems like he seems like he's got a great value system, a great support system. Probably been in it, been studying the game of football all his life, and I don't know. He just seems like he's going to be an incredible player, not just in college. I think he'll be an incredible player at the next level too. Yeah,
I think one thing that works in his favor is as far as his development. Like you see so many of these highly rated quarterbacks coming out where all they do is play quarterback, like the Bryce Youngs, the Trevor Lawrence's, the DJ Uiagalelei's, all these high-ranked quarterbacks, they have private QB coaches and like all that sort of thing, this high-level training. King was like, he played quarterback for Longview, but he also played basketball in the offseason and then ran track. Like he wasn't off the ball all the time. He was very diverse in his participation in his time. Like he wasn't in a dedicated off-season weight training program. So he's already gotten bigger since he's been here. He's never going to be a big muscle-up guy, but he's got plenty of size to be durable in this conference. And I think, like what we've seen from his high school highlights, I think he'll be even better I guess as soon as this year. So definitely a lot to be excited about. But to wrap up on King, it's his second year on campus. He's a redshirt freshman. Super fast, super accurate, and just good head on his shoulders. And we think that he's going to be the guy. But as we've been saying, this is a competition. And the other side of the coin is Zach Calzada. Zach Calzada is a 6'3", 200-pound quarterback from Lanier, Georgia. He's still listed as a redshirt freshman due to the COVID year, but it is his third year on campus. He actually participated in the spring game in 2019. So this is his third go around, and you hear from the coaches, and I think they say that he's really honed in and focused, and this is a true competition. Like, I know we all expect it to be King, but I think Zach's given him a run for his money. And how he's different from King is he's not quite the athlete, but the dude has a howitzer of a right arm. He's, no joke, got the strongest arm that I've seen while following A&M. Like, it's stronger than Kyler, it's stronger than Kyle Allen, it's stronger than Tannehill, and any of the other quarterbacks that we've seen go elsewhere. Like, the dude just has a rocket. And I know that's not everything. Like, it's not even, the most important thing. Like, you need to be accurate and make good decisions, but his arm definitely flashes whenever you watch him.
Yeah. And Calzada is a great example that I said in that introduction episode, that little quick snippet that we did, where Jimbo can go and find these guys that are, not highly rated, nationally famous guys, recruit them, and they're super good players. I think Calzada's one of those guys. There's a lot to him that make him a really, really good quarterback. And I think he could start most places in the entire country. I think he could start at Texas A&M. I mean, I'm not counting him out by any means. He, like you said, his arm is incredible. And we talked at length about the leadership demeanor that I think Haynes King has. Calzada's got it too. I mean, he's got that kind of swag to him, I guess you could say, that you could. Yeah, I mean, you got to like the kid, but then when you look at his loyalty to the team too, not saying, like, it's not a foregone conclusion that Haynes King is the starter. It's just not. I mean, he could very well win out. He might know the playbook better. I don't know. I'm not on the inner workings of it. He's got the talent to. He very well could, but he's willing to come into that challenge. And as a third-year player, like you said, eligibility-wise, he's a redshirt freshman. Mm-hmm. But he's been here for 3 years. It's probably confusing to people. We didn't ever mention that, and I know that there's been plenty of people texting me and replying about how you like that we try to teach a little bit here and not just pander to the people that follow this all day long. But last year, you could continue playing, and you could play throughout the year, and it wouldn't count against your eligibility. So it's basically a free year. So some guys took it off because they didn't want to get hurt. Other guys took it as an opportunity to play one extra season, and either way, it's teach their own. But so he has been here for 3 years and still has, 4 years of eligibility left?
He's still got 4 years to play.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not going to be one of those things where if we get through fall camp, we got to worry about him transferring. I mean, it's possible, of course, but let's say Haynes King wins the battle. I don't think you're sitting there worried that he's going to transfer, because if he finishes out his bachelor's degree, he could be a master's or a graduate transfer and, go straight into playing somewhere else and play there for 4 years or 3 years. I mean, like, mm-hmm. that's really, really unique. I mean, that's kind of like a Trevor Knight situation, that he played a really extended amount of time.
I think it says a lot about him as a person that he did stick it out, and especially, like, they just passed the one-time transfer rule where you can go anywhere you want to without sitting out. Like it doesn't matter if it's interconference. You don't have to be a grad transfer anymore. He could have left after the spring and
Really?
be like, well, yeah. And so he could have left and been like, hey, King probably has this wrapped up. Like, they're not going to give me a fair shot, and I'll just go somewhere where I know I can start. But I'm sure Jimbo did a good job of convincing him to stay and being like, hey, this is a competition. Like, you're still in it. If you come back and perform in the fall. But I think we should give some credit to him for sticking it out. And
Absolutely. I give him all the credit for that.
Yeah.
And to make just to mention that I must have missed that's a big change in college football. I must have missed that altogether. So we'll have to talk about that later. But
for sure.
But yeah, I give him a lot of credit. And then I wanted to say one last thing about him that, if you're asking Chase Caldwell, which guy do you like more? Who do you think is going to be the quarterback? It's Haynes King is how I feel. But I get paid exactly $0 to, evaluate players. I've sat in exactly 0 minutes worth of meetings with these two kids. I know absolutely nothing on the inner workings of it, and we have the number one coach in the business coaching these two kids. So if you won't ever see me be mad about which quarterback comes out of the tunnel with Jimbo Fisher. I'm never going to get mad about that because he knows way more than me about this stuff. And if Calzada comes out as the starter this year, my hat's off to him completely because Haynes King's one of the most insane athletes I've ever seen, and he beat him out for that spot. That's a feat in and of itself, And so I think it's a win-win situation for him because he's gotten to train under one of the best coaches in America, and then might still be able to go somewhere else and play a full-on college, year if he ever transfers. Or he could stick it out here and, you never know. I mean, he could be the starter. It's just there's questions, of course. Of course, if you were to ask me, I already mentioned that. I'm assuming it's Haynes King, but you know what happens when you assume. So it's just we'll see.
And also, if he is the backup this year, he's always one play away from getting in the game. Anything can happen in college football, especially when you play defenses like Alabama's, like Auburn's, like LSU's. This is a physical game, and I think Haynes can be durable, but like I said earlier, he's not the biggest muscled up guy. So I think, to get back to Kellen for a second, I think we took that for granted for the past 3 years. He missed one play in his entire career due to injury, and what's crazy is if he didn't miss that play, we probably beat Clemson because when he came out for a play, Starkel went in and fumbled the ball on a sack. But it's remarkable that Kellen was so healthy for so long with some of the hits that he took, and it's something that we can only hope for with one of these two guys. I've got a couple of quick interesting notes on Calzada before we move on. So he's from Linear, Georgia. He played on a bad high school team, and there's no one from that city listening to us right now, so they will never know that I said this about them. But it was a historically bad team. They've never really been very good or gotten into the playoffs or anything. Well, he took that team to the state semifinals, and his film, it's funny to watch, not because of him. He looks awesome, but he had to include plays of drop balls because there weren't enough plays of him completing passes because his receivers weren't good. He had to show where he was putting the ball on the money and the receivers were just dropping them to show hey, I'm a good quarterback and I'm making good throws, even though, you don't see drop balls on anyone else's film. I've never seen that since I've watched him. Yeah, and then one last thing on Calzada before we move on. So late in his recruiting process before he signed, Georgia made a furious push to get him to flip to the home state team, and he stuck with A&M. What's interesting is if he had flipped to Georgia, he would have started at some point last year. I think I feel like Justin Fields was probably still there whenever he decided to stick with A&M. So he was like, oh, well, Justin Fields is there, and they got some other guys, so, I'll go over to A&M. Well, Justin Fields left, obviously. He went to Ohio State, and Georgia had a weird quarterback situation. Like, they had Jamie Newman transfer in, and then he opted out and didn't play. And then JT Daniels transferred there, but he was hurt. So for the first, 7 or 8 games, Georgia started a redshirt freshman who got benched for a walk-on. So they started a walk-on for, most of the season. And you have to think if Calzada's there, he probably gets handed the job at some point. And who knows, if he performs well, I think he would have. But on those two guys, on King and Calzada, it's going to be a fun battle in fall camp to see who comes out on the other side. If it's King, I think we're both pumped about that. If it's Calzada, tip of the cap for beating out a player of King's caliber. And stepping up his game. I think we're in good hands either way. I know it's cliche to say that, but I feel good about either one of these kids.
Yeah, and we compared it to some of the different quarterbacks as we were kind of prepping for this episode that we saw. It kind of reminds me of a Kyler Murray, Kyle Allen type situation where Kyle had an incredible arm and he was really good. And he wasn't as good and shifty as Kyler Murray was, of course, but he was a better thrower overall. I'm not necessarily saying that Calzada's a better thrower than King, because I've never really fully compared them 1-to-1. But he's got incredible arm talent, and that's the biggest thing for him. So it's almost seems like he's more of a pocket passer, where Haynes King's more of the shifty type. So I think we could see that mixed into packages too. I could see some times where if one of them doesn't start, they still get some playing time, and hopefully both of them have equal playing time this year, because we're blowing everybody out.
I know that's right. The last thing I'll say about the battle before we get to these other couple of guys, there's some eerie similarities between this quarterback situation and this team situation and Jimbo's situation at Florida State in 2013. In 2013, he had a longtime starting quarterback leave in E.J. Manuel, got highly drafted, and then he started a redshirt freshman who ended up winning the Heisman and a national championship. Also, in that prior year, they won the Orange Bowl. A&M just had a longtime starting quarterback move on, get drafted by the NFL, and won the Orange Bowl, and will likely start a redshirt freshman. So, TBD on the.
Well, we'll start technically a redshirt freshman either way.
Yeah, it will be a redshirt freshman either way.
Yeah, and that was Jimbo's third year as a head coach, wasn't it?
Third or fourth?
This will be his fourth year at A&M.
Yeah,
it was his fourth year at Florida State when Jameis won the Heisman, wasn't it? Or
correct.
When they won the national championship.
Yeah. So we will see.
There is some similarity. We probably ought to flesh that out sometime just for fun.
Yeah.
Because I looked at that one time. I remember I posted on Websider, which, if you don't know, is like a really. That's where a lot of the big time Aggie football fanatics.
It's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, but I remember posting that there, and it didn't go over as well with. I don't remember the poster that's a big Florida State guy, but he's like, yeah, okay, at the shallow level it is, but there's a lot of differences between the two, and I'm sure there are. I've never followed Florida State ever, so I'm just kind of looking at it at a very shallow level. But there's some really cool comparisons that we could probably make later on.
Yeah. So the quarterback competition, as far as who will start this year, it's definitely between the two we just talked about, Haynes King and Zach Calzada. There is a third quarterback on the roster by the name of Eli Stowers. True freshman. He was here this spring. 6'4", 215 pounds, out of Denton Guyer, 4-star prospect. Super athletic. Won state in the high jump as a sophomore, I think, with a 7-foot jump, which is out of this world. He's not ready to start right now. Still a little bit raw in terms of his passing, but definitely high upside player. And whoever wins the job this year, whenever they're done, Stowers will definitely be in the competition to be the next guy in line.
Yeah, he's one that I'm just excited about him, just as excited about him as I am Haynes King. He's an incredible player. He's just really, really, really good, and I'm curious to see how Jimbo manages all these fantastic quarterbacks because, we got one in the waiting that, of course, hasn't signed his LOI yet, and we're about to get to him, but just with the three that we've talked about, Eli Stowers being the third. They are all fantastic quarterbacks. I mean, they are all potential Heisman winners, in terms of their talent. Mainly in Haynes King and Eli Stowers, they're both super, super good athletes. Of course, they don't have a whole lot of film at the college level, so maybe they don't pan out. But you got to think that maybe they will. And when you're looking at just what we've seen, at the high school level from both Stowers and Haynes King, they're incredible athletes, and it makes me really torn on which one I like more because they are.
I know the feeling.
Stowers is fantastic.
Yeah.
It really makes me more of I'm kind of concerned about Stowers being sandwiched between two, career change, just generational talents.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really hope that he plays for A&M for a year or two and that we get to see his true talent because he's an incredible player. But it does make me worry a little bit. It also lessens my concern on what we'll talk about with the next one. And so I don't know. I'm excited to see how it all pans out over the next several years.
Yeah.
But it gives me peace to know that, in the event that we had to go to a third-string quarterback, we've got a fantastic quarterback. I mean, if Eli Stowers was our guy this year, I would be really excited. I'd be just as excited as if, one of the other two were our quarterbacks. I would be that excited about him. But he is a true freshman. There is a lot that he's got to learn, and he's got the ability to do that with having these two really good quarterbacks ahead of him.
Yeah. I think that elite level quarterback has been the missing piece here. You see like nowadays the teams that recruit the best, it's not like typically those teams didn't always have the best quarterback. Back when Alabama was rolling out Blake Sims and Jacob Coker, but now they get the 5-star quarterback every year. Clemson gets one every year. Ohio State gets one every year. A&M is going to hit on one of these guys. One of these guys is going to be a superstar, and maybe multiple ones. And I think as highly as we've talked about these other guys, there is nobody I think higher of than Connor Wigman. 6'2", 210 pounds, 5-star quarterback out of Cypress Bridgeland. He'll be a senior in high school this year, and he is just a flat-out stud. I don't know if it's because he plays baseball or if he wears number 15 or just the way he plays, but, man, he really draws comparisons to Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, he is incredible. I mean, incredible. He's probably the most exciting quarterback that I've ever watched at the high school level, and that says a lot because I remember how excited I was about Kyler Murray. I remember how excited I was. I remember how excited I am about Haynes King, how excited I am about Eli Stowers. Demetrius Davis was an incredible quarterback at the high school level. I'm excited to see his progression through college. He's not an Aggie, but he seemed like he might have been had we missed out on Haynes King. But there's been some really incredible quarterback talent coming out of Texas over the past 10 years or so, and I think he has them beat in a lot of ways. One of my old buddies that I worked with whenever I was an equipment manager is on the coaching staff at his high school, and he's got nothing but good things to say about the kid. He's like, this is the best kid I've ever met. I mean, he is so good. And for those of you who don't follow recruiting at all, you probably at least know that just because somebody's committed nowadays doesn't mean that they're going to sign with that school. They could always decommit, go to another school. In his case, one of the big worries that we have is, will he go to the Major League Baseball? And I think I'm not the one to ask about baseball. I'm not a big baseball guy. I love watching baseball, but I don't follow it. But there's, I've heard a lot about how he liked Childress, and that he wanted to play football. It sounded a lot like Kyler Murray, where he was this really good baseball player too, and there was questions about, is he just going to play baseball instead? I know there was questions like that with Johnny too, but this kid is one that's the number one question about him, because I mean, he's just that good at baseball. But then now that we just got this incredible baseball coach, I think that helps us too.
I think they've already been in contact and they've already hit it off.
Yeah, that's. I'd imagine so. I'd imagine that was probably the first call that he made.
Yeah, for sure.
Because this kid is a generational talent at football, and from all things that I've read about him, he might be even better at baseball. And that's really cool. I do want to do an episode one time about Jimbo recruiting these multi-sport athletes. There's plenty of sound bites and stuff that we can pull of his opinion of multi-sport athletes. But here we have two that we've talked about at length in Haynes King and Connor Wiegman, and they're both incredible athletes. I mean, just incredible athletes. And they diversified their portfolio, so I've got to be excited about that,
Oh, good. I'm glad you worked that in there. But yeah, Connor, man, he's a special kid. And I think it'll be more like a Kyler situation as opposed to a Cole Stewart situation. If you remember back in 2013, we signed Kenny Hill and Cole Stewart. We signed Kenny because we knew that Cole was bound for the Major League Baseball draft. I think he was like a surefire top 5 guy, which is an insane amount of money, and we knew he was going to go. I'm sure Connor will get drafted in like the later rounds, but from what I've read, like his dream is to play college football, and I would expect him to be at A&M next fall. Yeah. So, my last note on him, I've got receipts on this. There's a bunch of good quarterback prospects in Texas this year, and like me and Chase like to go kind of back and forth and debate about like who should A&M really target, really go after. After Wigman's first game last year, he posted his highlights on Twitter, and I watched him and I sent the video to Chase on Twitter, and I was like, this is the guy. Like, this is the guy we need to go after. Yep. And we didn't right then, and I was worried. I was like, man, is A&M going to offer this kid like he's about to blow up? And sure enough, they offered him back in January, I believe, and he committed shortly after. So I'm really excited about him. If you see one of these guys win the job this fall and leave for the NFL in a couple of years, don't be alarmed. We've got a lot of talent coming down the pike.
Yeah.
Well, shoot, man, I think that about wraps up our quarterback talk.
Yeah, we've there's a lot to be excited about. Of course, we mentioned at the beginning, we're replacing about as seasoned as a quarterback as you can get. He broke a lot of records at A&M because he played so long at A&M, and you can't replace that experience. That experience is very important, but when you're replacing it with guys like these, you got to think, hey, that's okay. It'd be okay if we have an inexperienced quarterback for a year, because then you get so much experience so fast in the SEC that they'll catch up if they come out behind. But I mean, I hate to keep using Johnny as the example, but he didn't have any experience in the SEC, and look what he did. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. Tua Tagovailoa did it. You've got plenty of good quarterbacks in recent years that came out with no experience and really set the world on fire. We might have that guy this year.
Yep.
And without sounding too maroon-colored glasses, I think we do. But I'm going to be a realist about it too, and say that there's probably going to be some growing pains and some problems with it this year. But I'm just so excited about it because it just seems like no matter who wins the job between Calzada and King, they're going to earn their respect day one.
Yep.
Because King, I feel like already has, because he's the best athlete on the team almost. And, if Calzada beats him out, then that means that he's beating the best athlete on the team. That brings a lot of talent too. I mean, that brings a lot of respect too. So,
Yeah.
I don't know, a lot to be excited about if you're Nagy.
Yeah, I think we're in good hands either way with either quarterback, and whoever wins the job, they will be surrounded by a ton of talent. We're going to get to those other positions later on in future episodes, but thank you for tuning in to our talk about quarterbacks. I know it was a hot topic for you guys, so I hope you enjoyed the episode. Go subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcast or Google. We are soon to be on Spotify, so if Spotify is your app of choice, go subscribe to us there. Leave us a 5-star rating. That helps boost our visibility. And then follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at IneligiblePod. You can follow me at WillStoneCFB. You can follow Chase at Texas Aggie 15. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.